Hello, hello. Greetings, fellow innovators. Hi, my name's John Cropper. I'm the founder of a company called Futurlogic Advanced Concepts. We are an innovation and branding studio, primarily working with luxury brands around the world. And I've been connected to and affiliated with the Edison Awards for over 15 years now. Frank Bonafilia and the Edison team are like family. And over the past 34 years, we've been honoring Thomas Edison, one of the true great innovators in the history of society. But there's another guy that many of us have never heard of before. His name is Louis Latimer, and he was Edison's principal collaborator, a brilliant guy who was a self-educated person, and he also worked for Alexander Graham Bell. So he worked for both Edison and Graham Bell, designing two of the most important technologies in the history of humanity. So first, I'd like to introduce you to Louis Latimer.
Hello, my name is Louis Howard Latimer, and my story is seldom told. I was the youngest son of Rebecca and George Latimer, former slaves who bought their freedom with the help of a black minister and the community. I was born in 1848 outside of Boston and attended only grade school. The remainder of my education was self-taught. I had an insatiable appetite for reading, drawing, and learning in general. At 15, I joined the Union Navy during the Civil War, and after a short stint in an honorable discharge, I returned to Boston, where I worked at the Crosby & Gold Patent Law Office and taught myself mechanical drawing and drafting. I became the head draftsman at the age of 20 and married my beloved Mary by the age of 25. In 1880, Hiram S. Maxim, chief engineer and electrician for the U.S. Electric Lighting Company, was very impressed with my talents and hired me. I took this opportunity to learn about the electric industry. During my tenure with Maxim, I invented an electric lamp with a carbon filament in 1881. A few years later, I began my association with Thomas Edison, serving as chief draftsman and expert witness on the Board of Patent Control. In 1886, I invented an apparatus for cooling and disinfecting. It was the forerunner to the AC unit and primarily used in hospitals. 4 years later, I wrote my first book, Incandescent Electric Lighting, a practical description of the Edison system. I was the only black man to join the Edison Pioneers in 1918, an elite group of 28 innovators and visionary men who worked for Edison transforming the electrical industry. I retired at 75 and kept busy enjoying the arts and painting and music and consider myself as a bit of a Renaissance man.
Today, I look at the world and see that all culture that thrives needs the nourishment provided by risk-taking heroes. Without openly recognizing and celebrating these heroes, the culture would be devoid of its critical inspiration layer that educates the next generation of aspiring citizens about what is possible and encourages bold thinking at a systems level. The widespread omission of African-American innovator contributions to the advancement of society has had a particularly deep and misunderstood impact on future generations. I'm so very honored that the Edison Awards is channeling my spirit and recognizing me as Edison's principal collaborator. It's finally time to fully celebrate and acknowledge Black modern-day hero innovators that remain largely hidden. Our inaugural group of visionaries have been identified as a cohort that both I, Louis Latimer, and my dear friend Thomas Edison would certainly welcome into our inner sanctums.
Yeah, what an incredible character, a painter, a poet, an inventor, and more. And I'd like to introduce you now to some true modern day Latimer superheroes, three friends of mine. First, Carmichael Roberts. Carmichael is the founder of Material Impact, which is a $300 million venture fund focused on material science and how materials change our world. He also is the principal investor lead for Bill Gates' climate fund, a $2 billion sustainability and climate fund. He earned his PhD in organic chemistry from Duke and his MBA from Sloan. And beyond that, he's an incredible hip-hop head and can tell you everything about hip-hop. Rayvon Fouché, an elegant gentleman, for sure, from Purdue University. He's the director of American Studies at Purdue. He earned his PhD in science and technology studies at Cornell and is probably considered one of the principal thought leaders around innovation today, and is probably the world authority on Lewis Latimer. And we've got here my friend Patrick Pennie. He is a local man from right here in Fort Myers. He's the founder and CEO of Emcyte Corporation. And his story is remarkable because he was a nurse working in open heart surgery, critical care. And having the opportunity to observe what was going on, he basically invented a process that takes platelets and accelerates them and then re-injects them into the body, which has created a healing process that's now used around the world. Absolutely breathtaking work. And so we wanted to share some perspective and some insight with you. So I thought we'd start with Carmichael. One thing is for sure, to achieve greatness in the world, you don't get there on your own. You have to have great mentors. Lewis Latimer had two mentors, many, but he had two. He had Thomas Edison and Alexander Graham Bell. Carmichael has two mentors, but many more. Bill Gates and a guy named Dr. George Whitesides, who's considered the foremost chemist in the world today. So, Carmichael, could you share some perspective about coming from your background and navigating your way to your hero status where you are today and the power of mentors to help you get there?
First of all, let me say I think this is phenomenal that we're honoring Lewis Latimer, and it's a privilege and honor in itself. And I'm sure I can speak for my esteemed colleagues here to say that we really appreciate being able to be here with you. And however that may be, Ray and I are virtual, but we're there. Mentors, critical. We all know that, and there's no way I would be in the spot that I'm in right now without them. You mentioned George Whitesides. You're right, I have a bunch, but you mentioned George Whitesides, who I say is the pivotal one. You know, I'm there with you right now in Florida from Boston, and what brought me to Boston is I was on track to be a professor. I was in George's lab many years ago. He is one of the founders of Genzyme. Let me just say, he started over 5 companies that have gone on to do tremendous products, all of them multi-billion-dollar enterprises with multi-billion-dollar product platforms. And he saw something in me, but he was very supportive of my pursuits of being a professor. But he saw the entrepreneurial side of me, and he also saw the human side of me. And you know, he in a short period of time, effectively had me in charge of a component of the lab that had anything to do with interfacing with industry. And you know, it was a daunting task, because this is one of the top professors in the world. So one of the top professors at Harvard, one of the storied labs that had remarkable people coming in to the lab at any point in time. And there I was, 20-something years old, 4 months in his lab as a postdoc, in charge of these relationships. And George never stopped with me. Eventually I decided not to go into academia because I understood the uniqueness and the importance of being back to Lewis Latimer, me having an opportunity to impact industry with tremendously groundbreaking products and working with people like George Whitesides to translate technology into products and businesses. And George worked with me in the beginning of my career when no one really knew who I was. But people wondered, holy holy smoke, George Whiteside says, pick this guy. This young guy as his partner, so there must be something special about it. And that confidence that he had in me was tremendous, and I can tell you what, if that's all I had to report on a mentoring, that's more than most people would have, regardless of your ethnicity or your gender. George is remarkable what he's done. But then lightning struck twice, right? Climate change, as we all know, is the greatest threat right now to man right now, even as we will find out, even more so than this pandemic we have to deal with today. And here comes Bill Gates standing up a fund with some of the most famous names in business and industry around the world. And there I got another opportunity to be on a two-person investment committee and be the business decision maker for this $2 billion fund that's supposed to be a catalyst to change the direction of the planet. And I get a chance to work with Bill Gates. We're still new in that journey, but again, another person looking at me and seeing something unique in me. So no question, I can stop there and say it's been pivotal.
Thank you, Carmichael. I mean, for me, I had the opportunity as a young executive talent in the communications field to get to train under Quincy Jones, and I like to describe it as it's the hero's journey, a really important book that talks about having an Obi-Wan Kenobi-like figure, and you're a young Skywalker coming along, and you've got to have that symbiotic relationship. Another key concept that I think you have to be successful, not just in life, but certainly as an innovator, is discipline. A relentless curiosity, an obsessive, relentless curiosity and discipline. And I think about Patrick, and Patrick to share his story about being a nurse in the operating room and self-funding a company and building it into the premier thought leader around that discipline of platelet acceleration. And Patrick, if you could share your story, it brought me to tears when I first met you, the relentlessness and the discipline required to build something like that.
Well, thanks again. I want to thank you, John, first for allowing me to be part of this illustrious panel, and also to honor Lewis Latimer in this way. I think my story is a very unique story. It's something that it's a really heartfelt story, and it's something that you really just can't plan. You know, I started out in New York City as a registered nurse working open heart surgery, and you know, this is something that I wanted to do, sort of a stepping stone for me to really pursue my dream. And my dream job was really being an open heart perfusionist. So when that opportunity presented itself in Miami, Florida, Barry University, I jumped on board and became an open heart perfusionist. I graduated in 1993. From there, I moved to beautiful Fort Myers. I've been here for a really long time. And I was really doing my thing. I pulled up my bootstraps, and I got into the operating room, and you know, I really put my best foot forward. And then 6 years later, everything changed for me. So really, it's an amazing story. You know, I am between cases on break in the operating room, and I'm reading an article about an ointment that was released by Johnson & Johnson product. And in that ointment, the ointment was designed to treat chronic non-healing wounds. And in the ointment, it had what I consider a placebo dose of a single growth factor. And it was a recombinant growth factor. And for anyone else, I think reading that article, they would just glaze over it and keep moving. But for me, there were a whole lot of scientific bells and whistles ringing off in my head at that point. I mean, it was a turning point for me, and it was just one simple article. And the reason being is that, you know, as a perfusionist, you know, I specialize in adult extracorporeal technology. and also blood management. So I knew a lot about blood and blood components and what blood can do. So when I read that article, I thought, well, you know, if we had this ointment was used to treat chronic non-healing wounds, how much faster would that wound heal if we were to use the patient's own growth factors and cellular components, and also the mediators and the cytokines and the things that are needed to really effectuate good wound healing. So I believe regenerative medicine, as we know it today, was born right at that moment. So at that point, I developed a protocol that would treat chronic non-healing wounds using the patient's own blood. And I knew that these growth factors came from the patient's platelets. So I developed this protocol, and then I called a good doctor, a good friend of mine in Naples, and say, Doc, give me your worst patient. I've got a new treatment protocol. It's never been done before. It's really never been heard of before. I said, but I think it's safe, and I think I would like to see if this can work for you. So he said, sure. He gave me a patient with a chronic non-healing wound, 5-year chronic non-healing wound. Patient had a tunneling wound, 8 centimeters, and it was infected. Patient was scheduled for an amputation. So I said, great. So I went ahead, treated that patient, and in 6 months, I saved that patient's leg and healed that wound. And at that point, I knew I had something special. So, and that happened right here in Fort Myers. I'm really proud to say that. You know. So at that point now, you know, as they say, necessity is the mother of invention. I knew that this therapy had to be brought out to the world. The way I performed this therapy, it was not something that was feasible to be done in a physician's office. We had equipment. We used what we call an autotransfusion machine. And this machine required a patient to donate 500 mLs of blood just to get the amount of platelets that was needed to heal that wound. And not everybody can do that. You certainly couldn't do that in a physician's office. They require monitoring and a whole lot of other things. So I had to be innovative and come up with a tabletop system that a doctor can use in their office, and a patient can come in, get treated, and leave. And the healing can begin. And there, the first tabletop PRP, autologous biologic system, was born. It's called a Sequire. And I developed that system in 2000, in just 2000, a year later.
And now how many people around, or how many hospitals around the world are using this technology?
So now, currently today, we lead the industry with our pure supraphysiologic concentrating systems. And this is being sold throughout the US. We sell in Canada, South America, Europe, Australia, Middle East, and also in Asia. It's being used all around the world. I've got success stories from professional athletes and so many other prominent individuals that have thanked me because of this particular technology that we've developed.
It's breathtaking, and he did all of that self-funded, no outside investors or anything. And you know, that to me sounded like a Latimer type of super heroic performance. It's a mind bender. Having circled the globe a bunch of times and meeting all kinds of different entrepreneurs, 30 years and innovating on a number of different levels, I kind of came to this conclusion that there were 4 key things that made up four key characteristics that defined an innovator. I think the first one is empathy, the ability to touch and feel someone else, be in someone else's shoes. The second was synthesis, the ability to put 2 or more ideas together, to combine, to create something new. The third was pattern recognition, the ability to decode the matrix and see around corners, see into the future. And the fourth is storytelling skills. Without the ability to articulate your ideas in a beautiful and elegant way, no one will ever know about what you've done. Rayvon has spent his career studying the mind of innovators. And Rayvon, if you could share your experience as a scholar of Innovators and some of the key conclusions that you've arrived at. Would appreciate that.
Well, thank you so much. I have to mirror Patrick and Carmichael's sentiments that it's an honor and privilege to be part of this panel. I'm particularly pleased to be part of a group of such distinguished innovative thinkers that inspire me by their stories as much as I'm inspired by Latimer. John, you just ended with storytelling, and I think that's one of the things I think about a lot. So I came to Black Innovators through a very kind of simple way. One, again, when I was in graduate school, I was having breakfast with some friends' grandparents, and one of them gave me a list of Black inventors. It was Black History Month. I remember looking down the list and seeing names, patent numbers, and objects. And that didn't really mean much to me. That list was supposed to stand in for all things important about innovation, all things important about Black society, but I didn't know anything about these people. So I became really intrigued with some of their stories. And one of the people that I became very interested in was Lewis Latimer. Latimer's story was fascinating. You hear so much about innovative minds, innovative lives, and innovative activities, but oftentimes you don't hear much about how people are able to innovate. And so I began researching and studying. And part of what was fascinating, in particular about Latimer's story, was there were a lot of childhood narratives about him, but no one had really dug deep to figure out who he was as a human being. And oftentimes, it was very difficult to find information about him. So part of the story led me to the patent office. So as I jokingly tell people, if you need to have something patented around the turn of the 20th century, I'm your man. I know how to get that done. Not very meaningful right now, but it was an interesting moment. But part of it was to think about some of the ideas that John is talking about and reflecting on. And part of the question I was really interested in is like, so what does it mean for someone to be a Black innovator? Is there something decidedly different between Black innovators and other innovators? And arguably my research has proven that innovative minds are very similar. The idea of trying to find out something really meaningful and powerful about the world is a very important step. And so part of that led me down the line of asking questions about innovation and the powerful potential of storytelling. So I see storytelling as one of the key elements of inspiring the next generation of innovators, inspiring current innovators. Because arguably, right, new ideas are exchanged through communication, relationships, and stories. And I'm fascinated with the idea of working through stories and able to share them with the next generation. Because oftentimes, innovative work doesn't happen. So until I met John, I didn't know Carmichael and I didn't know Patrick. In many ways, their stories disappear unless someone's willing to tell them and record them and celebrate them. So I think this event is such a great marker of Latimer's trajectory and tradition and history to bring together innovators to think about the future of the way in which we live. So,
yeah, thank you. I mean, I remember, I'm sorry, I'm a little emotional because I was thinking about this great story. Rayvon said he was asking, one of his students asked him, how do I get an A in your class? And he teaches an innovation course, and Rayvon says, well, invent something cool. So we have a few minutes left for questions. Any questions from the audience? Ideas, thoughts? Yeah.
Where do you feel it? When you know you have a really good idea or something you want to discover or look into, where do you feel it first, like in the heart, in the mind? Well, I'd ask that question.
I can speak on that. Well, I would say that sometimes innovation finds people, and sometimes people seek out their innovation. But in either way, you have to be passionate behind the idea that you're developing. If you don't believe in it, no one else is going to believe in it. You've got to be committed to it, and you have to know in your heart and your mind that it's going to change the lives of people, or whatever the intention is for that particular innovation. So if you have to even ask, if you have to feel it in your heart, then there is an issue immediately to me, you know, because it's automatically there, and it is the thing that propels and drives you. So it's what gives you that motivation and that inspiration to just keep going.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's a combination of heart and mind. When I'm looking at new ideas or new innovative concepts or being pitched a new screenplay or whatever it may be, it's usually a combination of an intellectual understanding of the idea and something I can't describe viscerally. Your heart and your brain communicate more than any other organs in your body. Mm-hmm. And your mind, what you think and how you actually affects your heart performance. And when you see something viscerally, it kind of clicks, and I think it's both an intellectual exercise and something visceral that you can't quantify. It's just a human thing. What do you guys think?
No, I couldn't agree more with both of your answers that you just gave. And the first half of my career, I was more like Patrick. I was starting and building companies nowhere near as long as what you built, Patrick, which is phenomenal. I got to a spot where I switch over and I help people build companies now. And to give you a sense, on the Breakthrough Energy Venture portfolio on climate change, we have 70 companies from scratch that we've done in the last 3.5 years. So 70 entrepreneurs, that have the same ethos that was just described by Patrick and John. And in Material Impact, we have 20, and then I've got another 10. So I've got over 100 examples of people. They all sound exactly like what these two guys just said. There's this overwhelming feeling that you have that you get when you think you're really onto something, and it is between the heart and the mind that it overtakes you. You dream about it sometimes. Yeah. You can't think about going to sleep. Wake up in the morning thinking about it. You go to sleep at night thinking about it. I bet you, Patrick, how many dreams have you had about your stuff? Good and bad, right?
All the time. All the time.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I would just like to add, as a person who studies innovators, I find that innovators see the world differently. And I think Carmichael and Patrick, you can probably relate to that, right? And John as well, right? Things that most people will just look by, innovators stop and go, huh. Usually it's oftentimes out of frustration. So there's a lack of satisfaction in the way things are working, that people get upset and go, this is just messed up and I'm gonna fix it. So there's that kind of motivation to change the world. But yeah, it's about seeing things differently and embracing that difference and going, I've got something here.
Yeah.
With that energy of seeing the world differently and acting on it, which is a really exciting part about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I know we have to wrap, but there's my partner in crime, the co-founder of the Latimer program, Frank Bonafilia, who's also revived the Edison Awards, and it's been a real pleasure to ride with you on this journey, Frank. So please.
Pleasure's mine, John. You're all an inspiration to us, and we really appreciate you being here today. My question is here we are as a community of innovators, all very successful in launching new products and services. What can we do as the Edison Awards community to really shine a brighter light on modern-day Black innovators and lift them up to see what they're doing in the world?
Well, really quickly, it all comes down to community. I think of it really as three things. It's community, curriculum, capital. So community is this, us together, sharing ideas, getting to exchange what's possible, what's not, doesn't matter. So the community part is critical. having some engagement. Access to capital is really important. Being able to have an idea and then being able to develop it. And the third C, I would call it curriculum, which is knowledge exchange, information exchange. And it's creating those mentors, that mentor layer. And we find the younger people coming up together, and we bring in innovators from our community to help them. So I think it's those three elements in a triangle combined, and you insert magic in the middle, and that's usually how that nurturing develops. So that's what we hope to do over the next coming years as a group. Well.
Hi, my name is Kenise Jackson, and I'm a junior at Dunbar High School, which is a world-renowned STEM school. And I'm in the biomedical program, and my question is what advice do you have for young Black innovators, and what are you, do you have any like programs or anything to like help nurture them, as you mentioned earlier?
As a medical professional, maybe you have some thoughts on that. I would say for young Black innovators and all innovators as a whole, that you tap into your resources, you tap into your mind, you tap into the spirit of your innovation. You know, I've had experience with individuals, young individuals come to me and very specific ideas of what they would like to create or what they would like to do. And the first thing I always ask is their intention. What is the purpose of this innovation? What is your intention and your passion behind this? And many of them will tell me that, you know, they want to jump in 5 years and jump out because essentially they would like to make money. I mean, it is just the idea alone. And to me, you know, I mean, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but I believe that you have to be driven further than just capital. If you're looking to innovate, if you're looking to change the world, if you're looking to bring something new and inspiring. So it starts from within you. The idea, the drive, and the passion starts from within you. And believe me, once you have that driving you, you will find the resources, and you would find the capital and find the channels and the connections to allow you to accomplish your dreams. Because you'll never give up. There'll be many doors that will close, but you will find those doors that open and you will go through them. So you just have to naturally be driven.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Really appreciate it. All right. That's okay. All right. Well, I guess that would be it for now. We'll be introducing the program this evening at the gala. And again, just wanted to thank everyone for their enthusiastic support of what we're putting together here, which will become an ongoing new adjunct to the Edison. And thank you for welcoming us to Fort Myers. It's absolutely lovely here. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you.